Live from the Orion Cygnus arm of the Milky Way galaxy, this is Scientifically Speaking, a weekly half-hour program devoted to elegant curiosities. And I am one of your hosts, Sarah Chang, and joining me as always is Bernie Rhyme, DJ Star Watcher. How are you, Bernie?
Yes, hi Sarah, very good, thanks.
Bernie is our professor of the astronomy lab at USM and also our local protector of the night skies. He writes Skylights, the official newsletter of the Astronomical Society of Northern New England. Reach out to us at WMPG Scientifically Speaking at gmail.com or on Twitter at WMPG SciSpeak. And if you want to check out the last 5 archives of our show, you can go to WMPG.org and search for Scientifically Speaking. Bernie, could you let our listeners know what is up in the night sky for this coming week?
Okay, good, yes, I will be glad to do that. All right, so this will be Friday, January 22nd. So basically, we're going to be losing Jupiter and Saturn. They were with us for that great conjunction on the solstice. So try to challenge yourself and see what the last date that you can actually see this. It might disappear around the 23rd. Saturn is lower and fainter, so that may already be gone by now, but you can still be able to see Jupiter. Now, last week, Mercury had joined them, so you won't be able to see Mercury. Venus is still up in the morning, around 5 in the morning. And then Mars is still an evening object, and you'll be able to see that pretty much straight into spring and summer. There's really no meteor showers coming up till April. We had one in January, but of course it wasn't clear. So that's basically it. Just try to get your last sight of Jupiter, because they'll then turn into morning planets in February. So we're going to not see either Jupiter or Saturn for about a month now. So that's your challenge for the week.
You feel you're giving our listeners homework now. I
Yes,
guess
of
every
course.
week, technically, that is homework.
Yeah, of course.
Is to go and look up.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thanks, Bernie.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't take notes fast enough, you can also check out the monthly What's Up column in the Portland Press Herald. Today's show I'm actually really excited about it because it'll be kind of a little bit more expressive than what we normally do, I think. I guess but doing radio is one way of expressing our love and appreciation and admiration for science and math, but we're going to kind of showcase some gallery works, I guess, if you will. Maybe it's like a museum walkthrough, but in
Oh,
I guess it could be called poetry and science if you want to be more specific. But we have a special guest today. And Bernie, could you do us the honors of introducing her?
yes, certainly. Our guest today is Khadijiah Kagoni. She was a student of mine last semester, and I asked her to be on the show. I asked a few other students too, but this is the first student from this last semester that said yes and was going to do the show with us. Basically, because when we were watching the planets for the whole semester, and she wrote a really poetic log, what she was experiencing as she was looking for the planets and getting out there each evening, which I thought was very unique. So that's why I knew you were very creative and I wanted to have you on the show. So thanks for saying yes and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. That's a cliche thing to say, but it's very true. I was very honored and flattered that you both liked my log that much and that you wanted me to have you on your cute little show that you have.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
I love that you call it a cute little show.
Yeah, well, it's not you.
Is that mean of me? I'm sorry.
No. I think I'm gonna change our little intro title to "This is a cute little show." I just love that.
Mhm.
Cute little science show.
Till we make
No,
the big
it's great.
time. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on. And I don't know if many of our listeners are familiar. So you do know that Bernie teaches the astronomy lab, and I also actually audited his course a couple of years ago and really appreciated the approach that Bernie took. I feel like it's really different from a lot of other professors. And, I think maybe with the lab, there's a little bit more freedom, but I think technically you could incorporate a lot of the ideas that you bring to your form of pedagogy, Bernie. And one of them is that for, I guess when students do their labs, so you have like 10 or 11 labs that you have to do over the course of the semester. But life gets in the way, and sometimes students may not be able to do the lab as originally intended, but you offer a lot of alternatives for them to get credit. And I don't know if you could, do you think you could list some of those options that they can do, Bernie?
Oh, yeah. Now, normally when we were teaching in person, this came in more handy because I had people in sports and music and performance. And if they couldn't show up for the week, they would do that. Now, in this case, everything kind of being online, they can access it whenever they want. But yeah, so basically, students could do paintings. I have art majors and even non-art majors. So they painted things like the planets or some other things in the sky, galaxies. One person who's actually a realtor now, she painted the different planetary nebula, like the butterfly nebula, and some that's when the star blows up. And then others just write movie reviews. There's lots of good astronomy related movies, and I'll let them write reviews about that. Or they might watch a Cosmos episode or something called Astronomy Picture of the Day. So they can do a whole host of different. They've written, some music majors have composed music pieces for me related to astronomy and things like that. So it's a wide range of other things other than just, searching a topic they may not be that interested in.
Yeah. And so, Khadijah, what did you think when you first heard of these options for completing your labs?
Well, I'll admit that I was thrown because like COVID and everything. So when I saw that I had an astronomy lab completely online, of course my first question was, what do you mean an astronomy lab completely online?
Yeah.
That really threw me. And everyone that I talked to, they were like, so you're gonna stand in the dark and look up at the sky alone? Is that what you're doing? And so like I was a little like I can't think of the word right now. I was a little nervous, like let's just say that, because I wasn't sure what to expect in general. But once I really got into the class, I was very appreciative of the different methods and ways that, and like the time that he allowed us to complete the labs, and how, I don't want to say like easygoing, but like how, like if we were late for something, he was like, don't worry about it. Like it's a weird semester, like turn it in when you like can. I was really appreciative of that. And then like reading his outlines and stuff and the way he asked us to be creative, I think most people like, there's that huge divide between the sciences and the arts, right? Like you're either like a STEM person or you're a humanities person, and there's not really like, you don't cross that divide. But the way that he was like actively asking us like, hey, cross that divide, like be creative with your STEM homework, like please add something creative. It threw me for a loop. But like once I got it, I was like, I actually really appreciate this.
Yeah.
And it was an excuse not to do math. So
Yeah, right. Most students are afraid of the math part, so I don't do a lot with that.
yeah, I can't do math. It's bad. It's
Yeah. No, it's a required course, and I have very few math people, so that kind of forced me to look into other options too. And most people really do appreciate like you do, so that's great.
right.
I actually think that idea is really interesting to explore, though, because the idea that there is either arts or science, where you have this spectrum, and there's science with the objectivity side of it, and then or objectivity end, and then arts at the subjectivity end. But if you look back in history, if you think about somebody like Leonardo da Vinci, I mean, he did both arts and sciences, and that was all, it was just one thing. It wasn't so clearly defined. But as we move, towards modern times and now, it does seem like it's siloed and pillared that way. And so I think that's a really good point that, Bernie is actively inviting students to come and be creative and apply, or like to learn and apply knowledge in a different way, different medium, to express yourself in a different way.
Yeah, I agree. Like I could talk about this all day, but like yeah, I could talk about anything all day. Let's just leave it at that.
Anything.
But there's a lot of like divides, I think, and like it's not only with like just STEM and humanities, but like within STEM, it's like, well, you have the hard sciences, and then you have the social sciences, and then you have psychology, which is kind of both. So it's like within those, there's like those divides, and then even over in the humanities section, like there's divides within them, and we're just kind of like obsessed with putting things in like little boxes, where it's like you study physics and astronomy, or you study like sociology, which is a science, but it's like a social science, so it's not a science, but it's definitely not humanities, you know. um but in reality, like all of these things are connected and should be used in tangent, with each other.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's such a great point. So, I really like this story that I guess Bernie had asked you to write a journal, and you had interpreted that in a very different way than maybe what Bernie was intending. Could you talk about that?
Yes, of course. So the big project for our astronomy lab, was we had to observe the planets. It was Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, and then there's a Delta Cepheid star that we had to keep our eyes on. And in that assignment, Professor Ream, he was like, yeah, so please keep a journal to go along with this graphing part that we had to do. And when I saw the word journal, I was like, oh, journal, diary. I was like, I gotta write about my feelings. I gotta describe going out and being like, I found Jupiter and this is where I saw it. This is absolutely what he wants. In hindsight, I really, in hindsight, I realized he was probably asking for a scientific journal, which does not include talking about your feelings when you see Jupiter above your dining hall. Like, that's probably not what he wanted. And I learned this because I got an email from Professor Ream that said, hey, it was really creative. And I was very confused why I was being told that I was being creative for doing the assignment.
Bernie, what did you think of it? I know,
Yeah.
I know she said that you thought it was creative, but what was your first thought?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was actually surprised that more people didn't tie a few more creative things into it. So, yeah, no, it was unique. It's the only one out of about my 80 students that approached it that way. So that was really good.
Yeah.
The only one. Yeah.
And I think it's actually really important, you know, in some ways, the way that we learn about historical figures in science is through the things that they write, and you know, that's describing their experience of going through that process of discovery, or you know, knowledge acquisition. And so maybe in 50 years, or maybe like in 200 years, when none of us are here anymore, there's somebody, some historian writing about Khadijah and talking. And, you know, that's how they're learning about, oh, this was how she learned about astronomy and, you know, following the planets at night, for this one semester in her life.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I mean,
This
maybe
one
it'll
semester
happen.
of the
Yeah.
sophomore year.
This is kind of a tangent, but do you normally keep a diary or journal?
Um, I should. Like I have on, yeah, it's I have on and off. Um, Keeping a journal in general is really good. It's a really good way to like manage your mental health and check in with yourself. And if you don't have an outlet, it's a really good thing to use as an outlet. That's a little psychology rant for you. Keep a journal. It's really good. However, I don't like keeping a journal. So like, yeah, so I've been told many times, it's like, oh, just keep a journal, write your thoughts down. But I personally don't like not getting feedback on my thoughts. So like I write down all my thoughts and I was like, I really could have just thought about this. I've accomplished
Quicker.
nothing.
Good.
Yeah,
Mm.
which is horrible. Like journals work really well for other people, especially if like just thinking about it does not help you. Write it down. You can learn a lot of things about yourself by writing stuff down. Doesn't work for me. I like feedback on my thoughts.
Right.
And the journal doesn't talk back, so.
So wait, did Bernie give you feedback on some of your journal entries?
Yeah, he always gives us feedback on our labs, and I always loved it every single time. I'd send him a lab, and like the next day, he'd send me like this whole long email. Yeah. It's like 10 pages long, and he's like, "This is what I thought about your lab," and I looked forward to it every single time. I loved reading those. It was just the right amount of feedback.
Well, I think it helps that Bernie is also just relentlessly positive and optimistic, so you know that it's just going to be a nice thing to read rather than like just criticism. I think you might throw in some critiques here and there, but for the most part, it's very nice.
Oh yeah, it was so overly positive. It was great. I read some to my roommates. I was like, listen to what my astronomy professor said about my lab. Because like I'd be doing the labs while we were like watching TV, and I was like, I'm not gonna get a good grade on this. Like I'm not doing well. And then I get the email back, and he'd be like, you did a great job on this. This is what I think of you. And I was like, guys, guess what? Passed.
You're better than you thought.
Right, yeah, always better than I thought. I loved reading his emails. They were so sweet.
Good. I hope all the students.
I say that like he's not sitting right there.
Yeah, right. I know. No.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's good. Some students, basically, the only criticism I had, they had to put too much work in. Some students were putting in 6 hours of lab, which I was shocked. I just got my evaluations. And most of them are pretty positive, but for a 1-credit course, I mean, you know, if they really like doing it, it's great, and they don't mind doing extra work. But if they just want to take the course for the credit, then doing 6 hours for lab, yeah, that's a lot. So
yeah.
Wait, so you would tell your students, hey, you put too much effort into this?
No, I wouldn't say that. No, I just got my evaluations.
Oh, like they thought it was too much.
They thought it was too much.
Gotcha.
I mean, they can write extra if they want to write. I had some former authors. One student wrote a 23-page paper for the first lab.
Oh my God.
13 out of 10 or something. So,
I'd cry. I couldn't.
Yeah.
Well, you have to also think about Bernie. He's got to read 23 pages, and he's got like 100 students.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Oh.
Not
that's why I could never be a professor though, because like I wouldn't want to grade. So I'd be like, please do like write 1-page paper. I don't want to read more than that. Yeah, write as little as possible.
Well, you know, that's why professors have developed this thing called peer reviews, so that they have their students grade each other, and then they can grade the grade.
Right.
Oh, I don't do that. I didn't.
Oh, you know.
Maybe I'll use that next time. No.
Yeah, for your next semester astronomy lab, just have students send each other their labs and then grade that.
That actually might be a good idea. You might have your students inspire some of the other students to create more works of art or write poetry, things like that.
Yeah.
Because I almost wonder if do you think what % of students take up like the art side of it for gaining credit?
Already an art or music or a drama major.
Yeah.
That maybe 10%, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to see that increase?
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. Because especially like when I was teaching in person, we did a lab where we had to draw the different galaxies. We didn't do that this time. But people, like even like baseball stars that didn't really think they could draw were actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Be there because I had taken a year of watercolor myself. So I could show them some of the principles as they were doing the galaxies in charcoal, not just pen, because you can't bring out any details that way. So that helps. So I would like to see more of that and be able to do more of that. Yeah.
Oh, so it might, and just a suggestion, it might inspire others to go into the creative realm.
Yeah. So,
Khadijiah's, this journal ended up being kind of a way that you could express yourself through creative writing. And you also had written some poems.
Yes, I threw some poems in there for spice.
Did you write poetry before?
Yes. So this actually goes off the journal thing. I don't write journals to document my emotions, but I often do write poems. Because I find poems work really well for emotions that I can't quite explain. You know, like we have words for emotions, but they don't always hit that like right specific feeling, you know? Like maybe you're upset after you have a fight with a friend or something, but like upset isn't just what you're feeling. Like there's
Right.
other things in there. So for the complicated feelings, I write a lot of poems because they give me a way to express those complicated feelings in a way beyond that's just, I'm sad. And this class gave me a lot of complicated feelings because not a science person, I think I've said that, and thinking about how space was ever expanding and stars were dying and there's other galaxies and there's stuff we don't know and can't see and all of that. It was a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So I had a lot of complicated feelings. And as such, poetry came out of that.
Would you be willing to share a couple of them?
I would love to. Thank you. Yeah. Not to talk about me, but
Do you have titles for these?
No, I don't because I kind of just like threw them in the middle of like the journal. So I was like, I'm not gonna title them. I should
So
have, but
they're
I
just called
didn't.
Lab 10. Lab
Right,
10.
right. This one I wrote on October 27th, so this will be October 27th.
Good title.
Thank you.
Okay.
There is nothing stopping me from looking up and feeling so small because I'll never shine as bright as Jupiter, and maybe I won't even shine as bright as poor Saturn in the shadows. Uranus and Neptune right behind them. Pluto is more my speed, needing to be seen with a special telescope that takes too much time to build. Sometimes I feel as close as Mars is, and yet, even when the world is so close, and even when the word close is used, I'm still thousands of miles away, and the only people who can see me are the ones who know I'm there. I suppose I don't need to be seen. Thousands of years came before me, and you don't need to be a planet to mean something, and I'll never be as memorable as the North Star, but maybe I don't have to be. The Big Bang didn't plan for me to be here, standing here right now, made up of stars, watching the stars. I wish I could join the stars sometimes again. For now, I'll just settle for standing here and enjoying the view.
Wow. I'll put in
Thank you.
applause
Yeah.
sounds in the background. That's actually really amazing.
Thank
I'm actually
you.
kind of touched by it.
That's the
Wow.
idea. That's the idea.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so like as you could see, especially with that one, like complicated emotions. But if I just said I'm lonely, not the same effect.
Yeah, way better than that. Yeah.
Right, right.
But I think that, Bernie talks about that idea a lot of just really, looking up at the stars and starting to understand how everything works outside of, our little blue star or our little blue planet here, and being humbled by that. I think that's something that I feel like Bernie is constantly just talking about, and it probably contributes to his positive outlook.
Right, yeah.
Honest. So I feel like that really evokes that sense of just smallness, but yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Of course.
Did you have another one?
I did have another one. So this one was written November 14th. That shall be its title because I didn't think of one. Yeah, I didn't title any of these. It's pretty much the same idea as the last one, and considerably shorter. Maybe we were never meant to understand everything. Just observe and enjoy till the day our star says goodbye. And that's all.
I think that that really kind of represents when you were talking about there's just so much information,
Right.
so much to learn. Yeah, I that was actually really, really pretty.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What did Bernie? What did you think when you first read that?
Now, was that in the log that you handed in, or were that some extra things?
That was in the journal that I wrote, the log.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, no, I forgot the details, but yeah, no, I know they were they were
we just
special
we
and
just caught Bernie. Maybe.
forgot the details. But no, they gives. I mean, it was almost like the haiku, but written in a longer verse form because I forced the students to put it in a haiku, but you expanded it and did it in this sense. Yeah, I mean the connection, the smallness. I mean, we're still important, but in a different way, not the center of the universe type of way, and the connections and what we can learn from that. And yeah, I mean that's all a great way to express, and everyone expresses it differently too. So.
Yeah. Did you did you ever think about like how small you were before this class?
Before this class, yes. Yeah, I had that crisis before this
Okay,
class.
good.
I'd had that.
So
Um,
did this make it worse or
Mhm, mhm.
I think I think it just added to it. Like before, I was like, "Oh my god, oh my god," but this one it was like, "Oh my god," but like in a different way. Oh my god, squared, you know. Um, like it was all so fascinating. But there was that like, "Oh my god, I'm a tiny person on a tiny planet in a tiny part of the
Yeah.
galaxy in a tiny part of the universe and a tiny part of whatever's out else is out there." And then I was also just going through some like personal stuff this semester.
Yeah.
I went through a lot of changes and stuff, COVID aside, like
COVID, yeah.
beyond that.
Yeah.
So like it was a lot, it was a lot.
Yeah.
But like I'm glad I took this class, and I'm glad I like could make these poems and like talk, like have a way to express myself,
Yeah.
in a way that was appreciated. I mean,
Oh,
there was always the chance that like I'd turn this in and he was like, "This is not what I wanted.
yeah.
And do it again." And I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Well, all right."
No, I wouldn't do that to students. I only get upset if they don't want to put the work in or something. If anyone does anything even beyond what I expect, that's great. I would always appreciate it. Even if I don't agree with a particular thing. In your case, poetry is kind of universal. It's not like you're pushing a certain religion or something that you may or may not agree with. So I would always encourage what you did. So yeah.
I should have talked about my zodiac sign then.
Yeah.
Just
Well, I
kidding.
had a few people that were pushing astrology, which I certainly don't push, but I would let them write a paper on it or whatever they wanted to do.
I should have started my log with, "I'm a Taurus."
Okay. There you go. Yep.
Before we end the show, did you have a last haiku as well that you wanted to share?
Yes, I do. I have two, but I think I'll do with the celestial one. The other one's about eclipses, which
We
always
can do both.
wonderful. But if
Yeah, do both.
Do them both.
oh yeah, they're really short.
Yeah.
I'll clarify. I don't write haikus a lot. I don't like writing haikus. I don't like strict form poetry. Everything I do is free form. So when anyone is ever like, "You have to follow this phrase," I'm like, I don't like that. I can do it. I don't like it. All right. So the first one's about eclipses, and then the other one's just about space in general. Sparkling twilight. During daytime, sun is gone. Less than 3 minutes. And the second one is sun, moon, celestial. Inseparable, simple. Never alone here.
I love it.
Nice. Never alone. That's a good point.
Yes, never alone.
Yeah.
Bernie, I feel like you should put together a student astronomy poetry slam.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I did attend a
can-
few poetry slams when we met in the library. Sometimes I could get to them after class. And mostly I did take a creative writing class. I audited it a couple of years ago with Michelle Chung. She's been on the radio show a couple times. And a lot of her students showed up, fewer people in general than I expected. And so I had prepared a few poems. We can maybe do them another time that my students wrote haiku, particularly about eclipses. But
Yeah.
yeah, I could do something more with the poetry part maybe next semester. I will be there in person again, so we'll see how that works out.
And you should have Khadijah host it.
Well, yeah, of course.
I'd be super flattered.
No, those were so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I do feel like sometimes when I love astronomy, but there's also this sense of futility sometimes
Mm-hmm.
that I feel with it, just because everything, like the numbers are so big, and Bernie can just spit out all these numbers, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, Bernie, how fast is the Earth rotating? Like, and he can just pull it out of his back pocket and just spit them all out, and you know. 100 billion light years away. Oh, that's like pretty close. It's like, huh? What?
Close.
Yeah, watching his
uh,
lectures, he'd be like, "Oh,
That's
these are the numbers you need to know," and I was like, "I
yeah,
can't.
yeah,
How many zeros?"
yeah, yeah. Now there's
um,
more to it than numbers.
yeah, and I think it really shows through your creative expression. Especially now, I hope that you have this appreciation for something maybe you didn't have previously.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Khadijah, for being on our show.
Thank you for having me. Once again, I was very flattered to be asked, and it was a great time. So thank you.
You've been listening to Scientifically Speaking here on WMPG with myself, Bernie, and Khadijah. Stay tuned for Sports Jam with Cullen and Connor, and from your favorite nerds, mask up, and we wish you healthy bodies and clean air.